Hello, hello. Happy Monday, or whatever day it is when you watch this. Um, we are gonna design a dungeon. Not today, but over the course of a series of videos and streams. Um, so there's a fantastic game that a lot of folks recently came out, great acclaim. His Majesty the Worm, and designer behind that, Josh, and alongside another person, Warren, wrote a incredible class on dungeon design, which is just super super cool. And I looked at this very briefly a few weeks ago, and it seemed super cool. It was right around when I was starting to get into like adventure games and OSR stuff, which is now, if you've seen a lot of the stuff that I've been doing, is like I'm doing a lot of stuff with that with Gila and other games. So I got excited about the idea of this course, and so I thought it would be fun to do the course live, essentially, to go through the chapters and design a dungeon, you know, over the course of however long this takes. Ideally, I do all of this on stream. That's sort of my goal, is to show you the process, because I don't know the process. So I want to do it alongside you. I would encourage you to do this as well. Um, when I post this on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link below to um, the dungeon class. Um, Definitely worth checking out. Hey, Roland, good to see you. So good to see you. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna just go through the chapters. I think we'll probably get through the first two chapters today. I have looked through the first chapter already. That was the one that I kind of read, and I didn't do anything in chapter two yet because that's when you actually start doing stuff. So this first chapter is mostly an introductory chapter. Um, so we're gonna read it. We're gonna go over it. We probably won't read like word for word because you can read it on your own as well. But I think we'll try and hit the important things and talk a little bit about them. I'll just sort of react as I read things. And then when we get into the second chapter, we'll probably start doing stuff on stream. One last bit of preamble before we get started is that, as many folks know, I am a new dad. I have a newborn. I'm watching her sleep on the monitor right now. So a lot of my design streams oftentimes get disrupted because I have to go take care of her, or they just sort of end abruptly because I have to go take care of her. So if this video suddenly cuts off and it seems really random, that's why. And I'll just be back another time when the baby's back asleep. Okay, cool. So let's do this thing. Um, so the goal of this class here at the top, as you can see, is to create a how to kill a party in 30 rooms or less. From my understanding is that we're going to make a dungeon, a pretty decent sized dungeon from this class, which I'm super excited about. Here's an introduction to like role playing games and Gary Gygax and stuff like this. But this is what I'm excited about: step-by-step instructions on how to make a 30-room dungeon. That sounds like insanely intimidating to me, as I've been sort of dipping my toes into doing things like designing hex crawls and stuff like that. Like even a hex crawl that, like, I've been working on a starter one that has 19 hexes felt really intimidating to write, like 19 hexes worth of stuff, especially somebody who comes from a place of doing very little prep oftentimes. Um, but I want to do more prep because in the very beginning of when I used to run games, I did a lot of prep and it was really fun, that lonely fun. So I think this will sort of scratch that lonely fun itch. And 30 rooms sounds like a lot. Drawing a map sounds terrifying to me. Populating with monsters, treasure, all that good stuff. We'll create a dungeon like Bob Ross. You can follow along at home using the provided workbook. I've already made a copy of the workbook, so I'm ready to go with that. Um, I think this is important just to sort of acknowledge that like you don't technically need a course to do this, like to create content or to be a GM or anything like that. As long as you're like having fun, you're doing it right. And I think this is very true. Bad dungeons can be fun at the table. Bad games can be fun if you're playing them with the right people. Um, but I think there is, as somebody who used to work in education, there's a huge degree of value in classes like this. These are the authors. They're fantastic. They have a lot of background experience. Um, just the thing I want to highlight here, because it'll pop up a lot in the class, is that there will be these sort of sidebars. So, like the green shaded one is coming from Josh, who created the His Majesty the Worm that I mentioned at the start. Warren is going to be sidebarring in blue. So this is specific advice that we're getting from Josh, and then this is going to be like old school stuff. Another thing you should know about me as we reach into the old school approach section is that I don't know anything about old school role playing games. I didn't grow up with role playing games. I've told my origin story a bunch. Like, I didn't know about role playing games until a famous professional StarCraft player that I liked was on an actual play, and I watched that. So my entry to role playing games was professional StarCraft. Um, so I don't really know much about old school D&D, anything like that. I'm aware of OSR games and like the general vibe about them, but I don't have that storied history with it that a lot of folks do. So I think that is both to my advantage and disadvantage in this class, in that I think when you come from a particular foundation, like your desire is going to be to transfer all that prior knowledge into the new thing, which can help with learning, but it can also like impede learning, like especially since I think Josh does like cool stuff that is maybe a little bit different than some of the traditional OSR concepts. And so I don't have that like block. I hopefully won't have that blockage where I go, well, that's not how it works. That's not how the dungeons that I've run work, because I haven't run dungeons. Those weren't the types of games that I ran. So I'm excited to check this out. But here's the stuff that I'm excited about. This is why I've been making Gila and stuff like that. I like games that are about problem solving, player choice, open-ended rule sets. So like interpretation of rules at the table, sort of like player input and player skill being a big part of it, and problem solving. So I'm super into that stuff. Why are we making dungeons? Well, there's lots of ways to approach them. One of the unique things about the style is that players have tactical infinity. So you can kind of just do anything. That's a unique thing about our stuff. So the dungeons are going to help us with that. They're sort of like a classic element of fantasy. I think this is also really helpful. A self-contained space. Player choice is built in a satisfying way. In fact, if you give somebody infinite space to create, it is oftentimes overwhelming. They don't do a particularly good job if you just give somebody total free reign to create. Some form of constraints oftentimes are more helpful than not. I'm also going to, throughout this entire course, talk a lot as a cognitive psychologist, because that's my background. I have a PhD in cognitive psychology. I was a professor of psychology for a while. So I'm going to like pick up on stuff like that and talk about stuff like that as we kind of go through this. But yeah, this is actually super, super helpful to have a self-contained box for the whole thing. So yeah, it's a discrete place that allows player to try anything but limits logical choices. I think that's really, really cool. All right, and then there's like further reading, which is not stuff that we're gonna do on stream. Each chapter has a further reading section, which is really cool. There's like, I love that, citing your sources and providing additional reading material, but I'm not gonna read that stuff on stream. That's stuff that, you know, I probably will read off stream. And might talk about it in the future, but not stuff that we'll do together on stream. But certainly recommend you checking that stuff out if that's stuff that you're into. Not new to role playing, so we don't need to do this. I am new to the OSR though, so this is helpful stuff. Um, so that I know that I've seen everybody talk about this. I don't need to know. I don't really need this, which is actually really helpful. I'm not a 5e player either, so I don't need help with this. But Yokai Gal like creates some of the best OSR NSR material in the whole world with his blog posts. It is absolutely worth reading. Like I said, we're not going to read it now. Here's a bunch of other stuff. Why are dungeons the right size? The core activity of role-playing games is making decisions. Every other activity feeds back into this. That seems like an interesting thing. What are mega dungeons and the mythic underworld? So this stuff I do want to kind of go through these 9 points here, just to get a sense of what a because is that what we're making? Are we making a mega dungeon? Is that a 30-room dungeon? Is that a normal size dungeon? I don't know. I don't know what a normal size dungeon is. 30 sounds mega to me. The mythic underworld is this. It's big, it has many levels. In fact, it may be endless. That's kind of fun, although kind of goes counter to the stuff before about being a self-contained box. Follows its own ecological and physical rules. I think this is fascinating. A thing that I've seen a lot with like dungeon stuff is that like people live there, right? And so the dungeon needs to sort of be designed in a way that people would live there. Not static. Things change over time. That stuff is really interesting to me. If you've seen my previous design streams, you know I'm fascinated by living worlds, worlds that change over time, faction turn stuff, all that sort of stuff. So having something like that keyed into the dungeon is like really important to me and sounds really fun. Not linear. I think this is important as well, right? There are multiple paths through the dungeon, many ways to move up and down. Its purpose is mysterious or shrouded in legend. That's kind of fun, actually, because if it's not, and you're just like, yeah, this is just a dungeon, and we all know about it, and it's just full of monsters, and I guess you guys can be the one to go down there. That's not as exciting as like, oh, this dungeon is like a labyrinth from an age past, and it recreates the life of a hero of that time. Like that's a fun and weird reason that this dungeon exists. So yeah, it seems like it's gonna be a fun time to make all this. So that's the first chapter. I think the second chapter is where we're gonna actually start doing stuff. So let's dive into it and see what the second chapter has for us. In this chapter, you'll go through the ideation required to create a dungeon. Brainstorming is an important step needed to turn a blank page into a page filled with ideas you can actually work with. Ooh, blank page is terrifying to start with. We'll discuss how to right-size a dungeon and then think about the goals of your project. At the end of this chapter, you'll have a set of notes in your workbook about the history and theme of your dungeon. Wow, we're going to get a lot done today. Okay, defining scope. Great location for adventures to take place in. They can attempt anything within reason. Cool. Needs to be large enough to be interesting, right? Too few rooms and you kind of just have like a house. Houses can be fun, but maybe not particularly interesting. Procedures the game uses to track time won't have spun up in a dungeon of 5 to 10 rooms. I think this is also an interesting thing, and it'll be something that I'm gonna, I don't know, I might grapple with this class, which is like Gila, which is I'm going to be designing this under the assumption that it's going to be used for Gila. Doesn't care about light because I've never cared about tracking light. And all the characters just have stones that produce light all the time. But this procedures of tracking time in a dungeon thing is interesting to me. It's a thing that I've read in every dungeon that I've ever seen is like stuff about like you spend a turn in the dungeon and that's 10 minutes doing something. And like rounds and turns in dungeon exploration feels weird. In any kind of exploration feels weird to me. I can kind of grok it when it comes to like overworld travel, But once we're like our characters are doing stuff, rounds and turns are hard for my brain to be like, well, I don't know why we're tracking this. This isn't combat. It's not as minute. So I think this will be a thing that'll be hard for me to grapple with, but I think it'll be important for me to understand. Hey, you, good to see you. Yeah, I'm excited to read this as well. Um, Problems of real world space and time. Yeah, how many of these are you actually going to get through? An average group will explore 3 rooms per hour of play, depending on the complexity of the puzzles, how many fights there are, etc. That's a fun little data point. So if we're doing 3 rooms an hour, and this is a 30-room dungeon, that's going to be 10 hours of play, and that for me, I usually run like 2-hour sessions. So that's like a 5-session sort of commitment in order to do this. Obviously, if you run longer sessions, like 3 or 4 hours, it's going to be more like 3 or 2 hours. Okay. We are making a 30-room. Oh, this is the math that I just said. About 10 hours of play. That's plenty of content for 4 or 5. Wow. I'm on the exact same wavelength as the authors here. I probably should have just read instead of doing the math. It's an achievable number of rooms to write. That's what they say. Sounds daunting to me, but that's what they say. Stretch of your creative muscles, but not overwhelming. Personal or public. The purpose of this course isn't to make something you intend to publish. Well, that's a problem because I'm going to publish it. Formatting for publication requires some additional considerations that'll slow. That's fair. If you're running your own game, you can do a lot with just a few sheets of paper. I'm gonna probably try and publish whatever I design. This is my job, is game design and role-playing game design. So while this is almost certainly going to be something that I will use for probably my Gila group, I'm not gonna. It'll get published, and so I'll just have to figure out what these considerations are. What system? We don't really need to read this too much. I mean, we probably should because there's probably some important stuff, but I know what system I'm going to be writing this for. I'm going to be writing it for my system, for Gila, which, if you're not familiar with, there's a playtest on itch. That link will also be in the description if you're watching this later on in like a VOD or something, which is OSR-ish. So yeah. Hey, Cordell, good to see you. Yeah, I am doing the dungeon course. I'm excited to see how it goes. I guess this is important in terms of thinking about our system ahead of time, because it will affect things like stat blocks, other sorts of things. I'm not gonna try and write this in a way that is generic enough that it can be like mapped onto other OSR games. Like, I'm not gonna like dual stat everything. Where it's gonna be like, here's the Gila stat block and here's the Cairn stat block. I'm not gonna do that. Because the thing that I've seen also in a bunch of dungeons is people just say like, make the necessary conversions on your own to whatever system it is that you're gonna use. This is interesting. Pathfinder or D&D have expectations about how challenging a dungeon should be for characters of a certain level. That's not really necessarily a thing in like a lot of OSR stuff. It's like semi a thing in Gila, and that there's like the tier stuff, but I don't think it's like as important. But yeah, this is important. Like, if characters have abilities, that's gonna change how many locked doors we create. If certain spells exist, that's going to change whether or not this is a challenging thing. So this is important stuff. Don't get tangled in the maths. This is written by Brits. At this stage in dungeon creation, the idea, we're not going to worry about all that stuff. I'll be frequently referring to His Majesty the Worm as my primary rule set. I gotta read His Majesty the Worm. Expectations of this rule set are shared with most OSR games. Cool. No story? No story. No story. RPGs are a unique type of activity. RPGs aren't exactly the same thing as telling a story. If you want to write a dungeon, it's possible you have an idea in your head of how the story of the adventure might go. Oh, I see. I could imagine a story being told that way, but it's not how the players choose to do things. When designing a dungeon, you're designing a space charged with potential energy. Ooh, I love that phrase. That's really good. You're not designing a linear story. That was one of our checkpoints from before. Um, Instead, prep situations that are interesting. This is stuff that I'm seeing so much as I'm reading more OSR stuff, like with the Prismatic Wastelands book and other things like that. Um, Provide puzzles that have no obvious solution. This is super important. Many possible non-obvious solutions, open-ended challenges. This is the stuff that's exciting to me. I'm really, really excited about that. Don't imagine a prescribed adventure. It's not a sequence of scenes. I've never really designed or run games like this anyways, so it's just nice to see like this is what you need to be doing this if you're going to be playing this game. Um, yeah, Roland and Yuke, I hear it looks and sounds great. Oh wow, it you fight with tarot cards? Wow, I really don't know anything about this game. That sounds really interesting. Now I want to know a lot more about the game. Um, what you'll also find, reader, is how much less work a dungeon takes to maintain and run because it's loaded with potential energy, like an RPG battery. Your initial couple of working sessions of creativity fuels several sessions of play. Because you're not trying to maintain a balancing act of story, this makes running a game less burdensome. That's actually really a great idea. That's a great thought. If we aren't trying to get a particular story out, we can just you can kind of just, it's like pushing over a domino, right? And then just let it run. Like let them all start to fall and knock into each other, sort of thing. Well, the whole game uses tarot cards. That's interesting. Um, Quirtle says dungeons are a few piles of barely standing Jenga towers that the players can maintain or knock over. That's a great analogy. I love that. Okay, theme and background. This is not to say that your game world doesn't have stories in it. A dungeon that's just a random cave with various monsters waiting to fight to death in every room is boring. True. A dungeon that is a cave carved by the tunneling of a long dead lava worm, now inhabited by Morlocks who believe themselves to be the true heirs. Yeah, that's cool. A theme is just the basic idea: ice dungeon, fire dungeon, tooth fairy dungeon. It's fun. Background provides the historical details: who built the dungeon and who lives there now. Cool. Tension between the original purpose of the dungeon and current inhabitants will create an interesting setting for adventure. That's actually a really interesting point too. Right? Like the dungeon was built to, you know, hold, to be the sort of the prison of a powerful being. That's not who's there anymore. Now it's held by like some weird like group of wandering historians. Why are they there? That's an interesting thing to think about. Here's some fun examples. Glacier Dungeon. The background, home of the Winter Queen. Why Evolution of the Wardrobe. Shipwreck of a famous ship is there. Cool. Mushroom Swamp. That's a great theme. Which reminds me, I gotta go read Yuge's Poison Swamp thing that they wrote for OSR stuff. Because as a fellow Miyazaki person, I love the pain of a poison swamp. Beautiful mushroom forest growing out of the body of a mushroom god. Sick. Spear lodged in its brain. Now it's poisonous. Giant's castle. Cool. All right, this is so true. There's no tyrant as cruel as a blank page. Yeah, this is true. Open prompts like this are awful. If you ever have trouble creating any ideas in this course, choose a prompt at the starting point for whatever work you're doing. The prompt could be anything you want. There's a special type of creativity that allows you to force yourself to write about one specific thing. Okay. To the goal of defeating the blank page, I put together 21 dungeon seeds in His Majesty the Worm to serve as inspirational prompts. This chapter of the book is released as a free supplement. Oh. All right, well, this will be something that we'll probably take a look at sometime. Okay, we're in our first activity. We're gonna start doing something. Create a theme and background. All right, so I have already made my copy of the Designing Dungeons workbook here. Oops, didn't do that. So this is something, if you're doing the class, you can make a copy of the workbook, and it's a 29-page document that, as you can see, we're going to fill with rooms and a whole bunch of stuff. All right, I already did that. We have a free writing exercise, which is a blank page, which I have a feeling this is what we're going to be doing next. I'm going to make this font a little bigger just so that I can see it, and you can see it a little bit better. I should not have updated normal text. That's going to change the entire document. Undo that. All right, it's just for me. All right. Step 1, create a copy. Did that. 2, define your theme. We can tell we're in OSR territory because of that font. Yeah, it feels like an OSR font to me. What is this font? Does Google recognize it? No, it's a picture. Oh, there you go. I am spell English. All right, good font. All right, define your theme. Go to page 3. Is that what we're on? No, we're on page 2. This is page 3. Okay. Oh, I'm just going to close this and come back to this. Write down your dungeon theme. Make this short and punchy, easily gettable. 1 or 2 words is fine. It shouldn't be longer than a sentence. Oh my god, we have to just make a theme right now out of nothing? That sounds terrifying to me. It's an IMFL, a classic. I used it everywhere. I mean, it seems like a very good font. I can imagine using this font for sure in things. Okay, I guess we need a theme. And just as sort of a reminder for ourselves, the themes that like were kind of coming up earlier, these sort of like two-word examples: glacier, dungeon, mushroom, swamp, giants, castle, etc. Quirtle says, what I used is to get 2 random magic cards. Oh, that's interesting. I actually have a bunch of magic cards, but I think these are all lands because I was using them as card backs. Yeah, these are all lands. Damn it. I was about to say, oh, that'd be a fun thing to do, but these are lands, which is not going to get us very far other than island, mountain, mountain, island. Because they're only red and blue cards, too. Island Mountain actually is a fun idea. So is Mountain Island. Those are actually both great things to mix together. Island Mountain. I mean, that's oftentimes what a mountain or an island is. And then Mountain Island. Wait, Mountain Island, Island Mountain. I feel like they're kind of the same thing. Me mixing them in reverse order has not changed magically the two things. Okay, cool. Well, let's think about things that are fun for. I mean, I'm big on forests. I mean, I definitely want forest as part of it. It's probably something forest, right? Not forest blank, but like I love forests are like my, if I had to like choose a biome that I love, it's forests. I love walking in forests. I love being in forests. All that sort of stuff is very good to me. So I'm into it. Let's just go with like an ancient forest. This also just sort of fits the vibe of my games, which are generally about this sort of stuff, especially Gila. Let me zoom in a little bit here on this page. You all can see that a little bit better. Can't really. That's probably fine. An ancient forest? Ancient just doesn't feel quite as interesting enough. Yeah, I don't like ancient. That's not good enough. Let's get a different word, a different descriptor for this uh forest. Mushroom forest. I like mushroom forest. That's fun. Oh, hey, Emily. Lone Mountain. Lone Mountain would have been a good one for our previous dungeon, for sure. Of course, now I'm already thinking, like, if we're making a dungeon and it's a forest, can a forest be a dungeon? I'm sure it can. But I'm so set in my mind of, like, what a dungeon is. Um, all right, let's just keep ancient forest for now. That's fine. I think we can work with ancient forest. All right. Underground forest is actually really fun. Let's do that. Let's do that. Come on. Underground. Underground forest. That's fun. Okay, free writing exercise. We're going back to page 2. We got that theme down. Now we're in the free writing exercise territory. Go to page 2, free writing exercise. On this page, write down as many ideas about your theme as you can. Write lists of things you think are cool: laser eyes, fire breath, bats with human faces. Write down simple puzzle setups. Write potential rooms that you might want to include. Write types of treasure you might want to include. Just freely associate simple ideas. You will build them out later. Spend at least 10 minutes on this. Oh, wow. Setting a timer. All right, let me get a timer set up on my phone. Okay, I have a 10-minute timer. I haven't started it yet because I want to read the rest of the prompt. During this time, guard yourself against distractions. Well, that's going to be a problem because I am streaming this and I am going to be looking off to the side a lot. But I won't look at my phone. I won't check my email. I won't scroll on my favorite website. It's just me versus the blank page. Don't delete or rewrite. Just put your ideas on the page. Write until the timer goes off. Okay, so we're writing ideas about our theme as possible. All right, so here we go. 10 minutes. I am starting the timer now. It would be fun if I had like a way to put the timer up on the screen, but I didn't know this was coming, so I didn't have time to prep it. All right, underground forest. I actually kind of like the idea of, I'll do bullets here, I think. That's probably the best format. I almost like the idea of that this is a greenhouse, right? A preservation of a forest that can no longer exist on the surface. That seems fun to me. Because then I think we can kind of like play around with the idea of rooms, temperatures, water systems, all that fun stuff. So rather than it just being a forest underground and we're thinking like, oh, right, why does that work? I think thinking about it as like a, for some reason this is, so like, why isn't it above ground anymore? That's a good question. Is it too volatile above ground? Is it hiding something that needs to be kept secret and safe, perhaps? Is it simply just a piece of a much larger underground city, right? Like this is just the greenhouse of a city or like manor. It's just a park. I like that idea. Ooh, I do then like the idea of but that city or manor is gone and thus the garden is beginning to overgrow, grow wild. Yeah, it's dangerous. But I think there's like value to this place, right? Like people go here because there is value to the forest. Um, there are opponents in here, but also like history. Right? The trees hold stories, secrets of another time, and people delve here for all of that and more. I think that's kind of fun. I think because it's overgrowing, it is starting to resemble a forest now instead of a greenhouse. Ooh, I like this. Okay, so this wasn't always a forest. This was a greenhouse preserved for centuries. Whoever ran it is gone, and now it is blooming with wild growth. I think I'm not as... I don't know if this needs to be underground anymore. I don't think this needs to be underground. Just thinking, I don't know if this is underground. That doesn't seem necessary or compelling anymore for what's going on. I have another theme in my head that's like completely different to this, which I guess if we're not turning our brain off, we're gonna just do this, which is like the second theme is like a historical labyrinth. This is like a thought that I had like a long time ago, and I mentioned a little bit earlier. Oh, we're gonna run out of space. Let me shrink all this because I need space. Sorry if it's hard for you to read now. I kind of like the idea of a... Oh, I gotta change this. A forest that tells the story of an old, like a hero of another age. Their feats, and it doesn't have to be a forest, right? Now it could just be like a historical dungeon. Like, we'll just say dungeon for now because I don't know if it's gonna be forest. I don't know. I think this is part of it is just changing. Their feats are told in pieces throughout the dungeon. You are faced with the challenges that they faced in their life, and they watch to see what you would do in their place. It's like if somebody like threw you into the Odyssey and then watched you and was like, so how would you handle all these problems? Like, what would you do in response to it? I think this is only interesting if you can link decisions made in one point in time to another, which sounds fucking complicated, right? Like, because there's like a canonical timeline in which this hero's life lived, and then you're going through it. This also sounds like it flies in the face of the linearity thing. So maybe I'm not as interested in this. All right, let's go back to our underground weird greenhouse because it just feels more interesting to me. Oh no, I lost my timer. Okay. Okay, I still don't know if this needs to be underground, but I do like the idea of like a like some important city of old and its greenhouse is exploding. I mean, just from like my own like personal canon, like this could be a Cellulara, right? The first city of the Thorns, long gone dormant, but the garden is now blooming once again. It's really easy then to connect this back to like Thorn and Gila, which all takes place in the same world. The Thorns are like the first people of Oberyn. They're the people that are like meant to tend to it as if it is a living place, because it is. Okay, what are other things that we need to consider? Like, okay, so like what's fun plant stuff? Like we're gonna talk about like poisons, right? Like poisons, I think we're gonna like hallucinate from plant life and things like that. We're gonna talk about like the critters that live in the forest now. I think bees are going to be a big part of it. Love bees. And if we're going to have a place full of plants, then bees are going to certainly be a part of it. What is the currency of a dungeon that is a forest? Like, are there merchants that trade in the usual gold? Probably. But I do think there is something to like valuable seeds and stuff like that. Right? Like, I think that's just something like, or that could be like a quest, right? Like go get a seed of this long thought dead tree and bring it back. That would be kind of like a fun thing to do. But it is also just fun to think of like seeds is the currency in this place. Like your gold means nothing here. Your gold means nothing here is very fun. We only trade in seeds here. Is fun. And if you don't have the right seeds, bark, leaves, I think all these things could be interesting things that could be fun to kind of like trade in. Oh, that's our timer. Okay. We actually got a lot done in 10 minutes. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, I did my best to not look at chat, so now I will go look and see what I've missed. Oh man, this is incredible. The idea of streaming this activity is so cool. Oh, thank you. It's fun. I'm having a great time with it so far. Does not cut the way that I want it to. Have you ever read Book of the New Sun? Makes me think of the city's greenhouse. I've not. I am not familiar with Book of the New Sun. Oh, and it looks like we had someone who had the same idea. Seeds, fruits. Yeah, just typing that. I was picturing like handfuls of acorns being used. Yeah, I actually love that idea. Which seems also kind of like crazy because like there's probably seeds everywhere, right? It's an overgrowing forest. In fact, let's go back. I don't want it to be an underground forest. I want it to be like an overgrowing or something like that. Overgrowing is probably not the right word. Like ultra verdant. Actually kind of love it's an ultra verdant forest. It's an ultraviolet grasslands, but it's instead ultra verdant forests. It's basically the same thing. But it is fun to think like, yeah, there's seeds everywhere. So it's only like some of them are valuable. It's a fun idea. Our money does grow on trees. Yeah, it does. It's just the right kind of trees. You got to find the money trees. Yeah, Cordell, that's really fun. Certain merchants might only accept certain seeds, right? Like they live in a part of the forest where there's just a shit ton of acorns. They're like, I don't care about acorns, but yeah, you got those pods. I would love some pods. Bring me those. Yeah, the pod merchant versus the bean merchant. Exactly. Okay, that was a fun activity. All right, that was step 3. There's still more steps. Um, define your dungeon's background. Okay. Merchant feuds could be fun. Totally. Now that I've spent 10 minutes thinking about the dungeon's theme, you should have a clear picture of what the dungeon is about. I do. I think I do. At the top of the dungeon worksheet, write your dungeon's background. Write 1 or 2 sentences for each of the following. Who built the dungeon? What was the dungeon's original purpose? Who is the primary power that resides in the dungeon currently? And that's it. Oh, and that's going to be the end of this chapter, which actually feels like a pretty good stopping point because we'll have just hit about an hour. So, all right, let's go back to our worksheet here. Yeah, we're not going to do this. I'm going to just get rid of this so that future me doesn't get confused. Oh, I didn't even look at all this stuff. Background theme, once this dungeon was, now this dungeon is, senses. I didn't think of any of this stuff. Primary power that controls, haunts or hunts here, treasure rumored to be here, traps that killed each of the last 2 thieves here. Who are you speaking to here? Oh. Well, these are fun prompts that I should have looked at before I started. Oh, there's an... Or did I just push it down? I see. All right, dungeon worksheet, our dungeon background. Let's go grab those questions and then we'll paste without formatting. Okay, so who built this dungeon? Like I said, I think this is an ancient. It's like oh, actually I know what this is. What are those like places called? This is like one of those like ancient seed storage places, you know, for the apocalypse. Created by the first people long ago. Seed vault, yes. Seed vault, yes. Thank you, Portal. Yeah, this was a seed vault. So it wasn't a forest at first. It's a seed vault that got out of control, that got abandoned or whatever. Nature kind of just did its thing, and and it's just gone wild since then. That's kind of fun. Currency based on scarcity could also end up with a kind of synergy between groups. Like beans are scarce here, so that currency is more valuable here, which would end up with the region with local beans having more incentive to visit and trade. Yeah, absolutely, right? Instead of just a single currency, it's just gold everywhere. Currencies changing in value as you go to different parts of the now exploded seed vault. Okay, so that's our answer to that. What was the... I guess we kind of answered this question at the same time. This was the... But actually, I don't think it's a preservation thing. Not a preservation thing. The first people were tinkerers and scientists. They were like, this is just a lab. This is a lab that was lost or abandoned, but it was designed to create new plants. Like the first people of Oberyn, like this was their job. They were given power and knowledge in order to do this. Like the first age of Oberyn is literally called the age of seed and shape. It's designed to have these people shape the world and then put life to it. So I think this is it. This is where they were creating the first plant life that would become part of this world. Who is the primary power that resides in the dungeon currently is interesting because the Thorns are back, but they haven't like taken over. So who runs the dungeon now or resides in the dungeon now? A primary power would imply that there's like a single entity or a single organization that sort of controls this forest. Which is interesting. I don't know if I love I don't know if I want it to be like a primary power or if it is more like it's a grab bag sort of thing. I'm gonna put something down which might not make any sense yet. But it's gonna be a drake. A drake of some kind. A drake of some kind. Drakes are a specific thing in my setting. They're all dragons are aliens, and so this is sort of a created one, given this parcel of land to control by a much more powerful dragon. Because they want the vault. They want they want the lab. Labs are an important thing in my world. So they want it. Hello, we're still writing in pencil, I think. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but that's cool. Okay. Oh, maybe like we're changing ideas. I think that's what you mean. I think I get it now. Okay, and that's it. In future chapters, you will build these ideas out using concrete details. If you don't like anything you wrote today, you don't have to keep it. That's good. You can change it during future steps. If you haven't already, look at my completed dungeon worksheet. Oh, this is interesting. I guess here's a picture of it. Shrine and sewer throughout the ages, but many civilizations. Oh, that's fun. Wow. Oh my God. Are we gonna do this eventually? Is this what we're gonna eventually do? Mock this up in Figma. I don't know what Figma is, but oh my God, look at all this stuff. I haven't even really looked ahead. There's a lot that we're gonna be doing. I already have like an entire second idea that I might do off stream. So I might come back for the next stream with a different idea because I don't know why I didn't. I should have made this a tomb. I should have made this a tomb. Which again is like a thing that's in my world. The tombs are these locations created by the dragons. There's dead gods chained up in the basement. There's labs. It's where the experiment, like the weird experiments took place. That's what I should have done. Damn it, I should have done that. Okay, well, maybe the next stream is going to be doing this all over again. And I'm not going to do it now just because we've been going for an hour and I'm already pushing my luck. My baby is still asleep, which is a miracle. But I think this is a fun starting thing. I'll probably hold this idea for the future. But I do like the idea of making a tomb as my first like big proper dungeon. That just makes so much sense to me. So yeah, we'll figure out like where Scalestone comes from, why that exists. You, if you're still watching, you're gonna get the good insights. All right, folks, this was really, really fun. I had a great time with chapter 2. Like I said, I'm going to do this. Oh, wait, there's an alternative. I'm going to read this real quick. Alternative activity, back to the basics. If you're making a dungeon... Oh, never mind. I'm not doing this. I don't have to do this. But here's all the future reading and stuff like that that we can take a look at. Like the Karen stuff. Karen, everything written for Karen is amazing. All right, fantastic. Well, then next time we gather together, we will do chapter 3, which is refining the theme. When you see me next, I might have a different theme, or I might do chapter 2 again on stream and do it with the tomb. So we'll see. But I hope you had fun. This was day 1 of me doing the Designing Dungeons class. Highly recommend it. I'm already having a blast with it. And I can't wait to keep tinkering with it. I will see you all hopefully sometime soon. All right. Bye.